What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy, Deviation, Kevin. We are back for episode 5 of the KD Kevin Drake show. And we are going to start out by giving an update. Monday Night Football, first quarter, Damar, Hamlin goes, makes a tackle on T. Higgins, stands up, and instantly collapses on the field. Our prayers, thoughts, and condolences are out for him, his family, and T. Higgins, because we know that he's going through it because he's the one that was tackled. And we all know that he has a little bit of thoughts on how it all happened. As athletes, as football players, there's this thought that we know that we're going to get injured, whether it be arm, leg, shoulder, foot, ankle, all these different joints and everything. We're like, okay, we're gonna get hurt. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable. There's no way that we get out unscathed in our careers, But something that happened that happened on Monday Night Football for Damar. That is something we never think of. He's in great spirits. Earliest update that we have gotten so far is that he has opened his eyes and he is responsive and he's recovering tremendously. And that is such a blessing to hear. And we hope that Damar makes a full recovery. And to everyone that has donated to his toy fundraiser, just the ongoing support with his foundations for him, his family, and everyone. Truly appreciative of everything that has gone on to help this young man in his recovery. I just wanted to start out with that because this is more than a game when it comes down to it. This is life or death, and he is a strong-willed individual. Now, on to some news that happened earlier today. If you're watching this on Thursday, when this is released, then this is the day of. If you're watching later on, then this has already happened. The XFL has released their schedule for so the XFL and ESPN announced their 2023 schedule. The season is going to kick off on Saturday, February 18th at 3 p.m. Eastern on ABC, with the Las Vegas Vipers facing the Arlington Renegades at Choctaw Stadium. The opening weekend matchups include February 18th, Orlando Guardians versus the Houston Roughnecks at TDECU Stadium, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, ESPN and FX. That looks like that is going to be the night game, and the Vipers and Renegades will be the opening day game. February 19th, the Battlehawks and the San Antonio Brahmas at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, 3 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Later on that day, the Seattle Sea Dragons versus the DC Defenders at Audi Field, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. It says here that season tickets now available and single game tickets on sale starting January 12th. For more information, you just got to go to the xfl.com/tickets. Also, it says Arlington, Texas and Bristol, Connecticut, January 5th, 2023. The XFL today announced its 2023 schedule in partnership with the Walt Disney Company and ESPN, the exclusive broadcast partner of the XFL. Key details: all 43 XFL games, all 43 XFL games, 40 regular season games, 2 playoffs, 1 championship will be featured on a combination of ABC 7 games, ESPN and ESPN2 22 games, and FX will have 15 games. All XFL games will be streamed on ESPN Plus and simulcasted in 142 countries around the world. It also states, through the global scale and support of Disney and ESPN, our fans will have multiple options to access and experience the XFL across broadcast, cable, and streaming, said Russ Brandon, XFL president. With 6 weeks until kickoff, we are excited about our partnership and the immersive game day viewing experience that our collaboration will provide viewers. Now, the interesting thing about the XFL and the way that they're going to control themselves is that everyone is so anticipated for this league, especially with a bunch of different names that are in this league. We will not be seeing XFL MVP of 2020 PJ Walker. He is with the Carolina Panthers still, but it looks like we are getting Josh Gordon back on a football field. He was drafted in the 6th round of the supplemental draft to the Seattle Sea Dragons, so he is staying up there in Seattle. Now, the XFL, when it was around in 2020, Vince McMahon brought it back. It was a huge success. The first 5 weeks drew numbers that only people barely could imagine. It was one of those things where we were like, oh, wow, they are building up. The Battlehawks, the Roughnecks were the 2 top teams in the league. Now, granted, the Battlehawks didn't have the record, but because it was a football team in St. Louis, it was something that everyone was looking forward to, and the fan reception for it was astounding. Houston was on a 5-game win streak. They were the favorites to win the championship, almost looking at as if they were going to go undefeated in that season. But because of COVID, shut it down, ended up going bankruptcy. We did not see it this past year. But in comes The Rock, Danny Garcia, and Redbird Capital. They buy the XFL. They revitalize it. They make it a game for the fans. And they have brought in a couple of new cities. We do not have a New Jersey team. We do not have a New York team anymore. We do have the Orlando Guardians, the Las Vegas Vipers, and the San Antonio Brahmas. Teams that are not there anymore are the Los Angeles Wildcats, the New Jersey Generals, and I think that's it, actually. We have the Orlando Guardians, Brahmas, and Vipers. They're the new ones. And honestly, the color schemes, the jerseys, they all look great. I especially love the Roughnecks and the Guardians and the Vipers. The Vipers are a little bit more simplistic and sleek, but they have different things on the uniform that stick out that make me like them. The Orlando Guardians with the forest green to give you like an Everglades vibe is just honestly astounding. 6 weeks until kickoff. I am really excited to see what the XFL looks like this go around, especially because we have a bunch of the same stadiums that are going on, like TDECU Stadium for Houston. That is the old Houston Cougar Stadium. It's where they played in 2020, and I know a lot of people are wanting to get back to that. The Dome in St. Louis, that's where the Battlehawks will be playing like they did in 2020, so they're going to be home there as well. And then we still don't have confirmation on where the Vegas Vipers are going to play. We don't know if they're going to play in Allegiant Stadium or if they're going to be playing at a different stadium. But the XFL is going to kick off, and it's going to be amazing. I'm really and truly excited about what this league is going to bring, especially after the success of the first 5 weeks of the 2020 edition. Now, moving on to the NFL. Actually, no, not the NFL, the NCAA. This past weekend, we had the 2 playoff games, TCU and Michigan, Ohio State and Georgia. TCU ended up coming up with the upset victory over Michigan, solidifying its way into the college football championship game against Georgia. Now, both games were 2 of the wildest games that I have seen in college football or professional football in general. TCU was an underdog. TCU was not favored to win this game, and the line was crazy. And it came down to the wire. And honestly, the touchdown that was taken away from Michigan should have been a touchdown. And then also the targeting call. Here's the thing. And I'm gonna say this because watching that back, if you go back and watch that targeting call, a lot of people are being like, that's blatant targeting. I disagree. And I might be one of the very few people that disagree. When they took that play away and they came back and said that there was targeting, I was at work but watching the game. And I watched that replay multiple times. And in my mind, where he hits the receiver, he hits him on the back plate of his neck. And it ricochets and hits him on the head. I think in all terms, that is why they did not call it targeting and they took the penalty away. Because it was just a ripple effect of the play. He hit him on the back plate of the neck. He did not hit him on the head. That was from my viewpoint. That is my personal opinion on why they did not call it targeting. I do believe it was just a ripple effect where he hit him on the back plate, went up, hit him in the head. It wasn't targeting, and I think it was the right call. The touchdown, on the other hand, I do believe that Michigan should have been awarded that touchdown. I do not believe that he should have been down at the half-yard mark because when he catches it, I understand college is different. When you go down, you are down. When you're that close to the end zone, touchdown. I do believe that should have been a touchdown. Now moving on to Ohio State and Georgia. My goodness. That game came down to the wire. And I'm going to say this, that game solidified CJ Stroud being a number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. Everyone's saying that Bryce Young is the consensus number 1 overall pick for the Houston Texans, or even the Bears, depending on if the Texans win this weekend and if the Bears lose. My thought process is that if you are an NFL franchise and you don't have that good of a receiving core and you don't have that good of an offensive line, if you're going to draft a quarterback, I suggest drafting a Ben Roethlisberger type. The reason being is because they can take hits. Now, do you want them to take hits? Of course not. You do not want them to get injured. Bryce Young has shown that he is prone to injury. You put him behind that Texans line and give him that receiving core without having receivers to go after, he's going to get hit a lot. I believe that CJ Stroud, with his mobility, arm strength, and his pure stature, that he is a tougher quarterback that can take a hit every now and then and be perfectly fine. And that's why I think CJ Stroud is the consensus number 1 overall pick in my book. He has a better arm talent. He knows when to run. He doesn't scramble that often because he wants to be a pocket quarterback. But when the time calls for it, he can run. Does he have lightning speed? Of course not. But he can manipulate a defense with his legs. And once he starts manipulating the defense with his legs, the defense has to take another step to guarding him. And that's why when you watch that game against Georgia, even in the second half, he didn't have Marvin Harrison Jr. and he also didn't have Jackson Smith and Jimba. And the thing about that is that they still kept that game really close. Now, did they get the touchdowns and the scores that they were getting in the first half? Of course not. But CJ Stroud kept them in this game. And that's the one thing that everyone has to realize. With his legs and his arm, he was able to make calculated decisions. He was manipulating the defense and showing how Georgia can be beaten. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. If it wasn't for the missed field goal at the very end of the game, Ohio State goes to the championship game. But you take away the top 2 receivers on this team, and yet you still are able to almost come out with a victory. It shows that your quarterback is something different. CJ Stroud has built himself up the past couple of years at Ohio State, especially behind Ryan Day and not Urban Meyer, and has proven that he is an elite caliber quarterback, and I believe that his game translates over to the NFL game more so than Bryce Young at Alabama. And the only reason I say that is because CJ Stroud has had to overcome a lot of adversity. The fact that the running game has not been consistent, the receivers have not been staying healthy, and he has had to put the team on his back and win. Bryce Young, on the other hand, with a stellar running game, with a stellar receiving core, with a defense that is top tier, and an offensive line that is good, almost lost to Texas, almost lost to Texas A&M, lost to LSU, lost to Tennessee. And I'm not saying that Bryce Young can't play. He's going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. I just believe that his decision-making and his mechanics need a little bit more refinement, especially being behind an Alabama team. And that's why you look at Jalen Hurts, you look at Tua Tagovailoa. Jalen has had to come into his own as a passer. And Tua, on the other hand, he went to a good situation in Miami. But you can tell that there are things missing from Tua's game that he did not learn at Alabama because he just had everything around him. And I think that's a thing that we have to realize when it comes to these programs that have great quarterback play, but then they don't translate to the NFL. We've seen that with A.J. McCarron. He was a championship quarterback at Alabama, but his game did not transfer to the NFL, and he was a late round pick. He wasn't a first round pick, and he never started. But then you look at Mac Jones. He's doing well in New England. He really is. He's building himself up, his mechanics, his mobility and everything. He is working on it, and he's getting better. And that says something about the quarterback. It shows that even though they played at Alabama and they had all these weapons around them, they were able to understand, I have this now. I will not have this in the NFL depending on what team I go to. So I have to become better. I have to be better. And I think that's something when we look at Bryce Young compared to CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is getting ahead in that regard other than Bryce Young. Bryce Young has to handle the adversity of the fact that he's losing games with this receiving core, with this running game, and with this offensive line. And now I understand a lot of people are going to be like, oh, this Alabama team isn't what it was in the past. I understand that. Don't get me wrong. I understand that this Alabama team is not like teams from Alabama's past. It's still a good Alabama team. I'm just saying that I think CJ Stroud is in a better position to go into the top 5 rather than Bryce Young. Just because I feel as though if CJ Stroud were to go to the Texans and Bryce Young was to go to the Seahawks, CJ would be able to work a little bit better and start them in the right path, and Bryce could take over exactly where Geno Smith has and work with that team and get them back to the playoffs. And I'm saying that about any quarterback too. You could take CJ Stroud, Hendon Hooker, Bryce Young, Will Levis. Those 4 quarterbacks, you could take them and put them on the Seahawks and instantly get results. They instantly get results. But you put them on the Texans, Hendon Hooker's coming off of an ACL injury. You put him on that team, he goes down, his career's over. Will Levis, 4-year starter at Kentucky, probably doesn't do much with the Texans. Shows a little bit of flash, but doesn't get much done. Bryce Young takes one wrong hit, hurts his ribs, or even worse, a concussion, out. CJ Stroud, on the other hand, I believe he would be throwing the ball away. He would be using his legs, picking up jump yardage, and trying to help his receivers get open. That is just my thought process. That is my opinion. That is my take on what these quarterbacks can and can't do when they get into the NFL. When it comes to evaluating a team, when I look at the Texans, when I look at the Bears, they need offensive line help and they need receiving help. The Texans need offensive line help, receiving help, quarterback help, and defense help. In my opinion, I wouldn't take a quarterback in the first round. I would wait till the second round, take a late round quarterback, see what happens, build him up. Get more offensive linemen. You have Kenyon Green and Laramie Tunsil on that left side. Titus Howard isn't working out. So you need to get linemen. You also need to get receivers. I would say like Kayshon Boutte out of LSU, he had a down year, but he did show flashes. I think he's going to drop in the draft, and it would be perfect for the Texans to pick him up. I just believe that if an NFL team is going to take a quarterback, at least pick pieces first and then get that quarterback. Because at the end of the day, you want a franchise quarterback, but you don't want him to get beaten like no tomorrow, because your offensive line and your receivers cannot help him get open. And you have a rising star in Dameon Pierce in the backfield as a running back. So that takes a load off too. Now back to the college football championship and everything. We have TCU versus Georgia. Stetson Bennett versus Max Duggan. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because now this is going to be one of those games where everyone's just like, Georgia's going to roll them. I don't think so. I really don't. Max Duggan, like CJ Stroud, will use his legs when needed. And I think Max Duggan will use his legs a lot more than what CJ Stroud did. I think Georgia's going to get into a dogfight. Do I believe Georgia is going to win this game? 1,000%. I full-heartedly believe that Georgia will win this game. Do I think it's going to be a dogfight till the very end? Honestly, after watching TCU beat Michigan the way they did, I 1,000% believe that TCU is going to be like, we might be a part of the Big 12. You all thought that we shouldn't make it, but here we are, and we're putting up a fight. I do believe that. I really do believe that the Horned Frogs are going to go into the championship game, and they're going to give Georgia everything they got and take them to the wire. I really do believe that. And it's going to be an amazing game. And I honestly cannot wait for it. I really cannot wait for it. And we'll see what happens. Last thing I'm going to talk about for this episode of the KD Kevin Drake Show. If they do not play the Bengals-Bills game from this past Monday, I think all you have to do is be like, what does the seeding look like for a loss or a win for either team? I believe the Bills and the Bengals should be 1-2 in the AFC after this because of everything that has happened. Now, granted, there's been a lot of speculation of people discussing why they should probably push the Super Bowl back. No, let's not do that. What you do is you push the playoffs back 1 week. And the reason I say that is because normally they get 2 weeks off before the Super Bowl the week before the Super Bowl, you get the Pro Bowl, right? So this is what I suggest. You go through this week, you play the games and everything like that. Then next week, instead of starting the playoffs, you give everyone rest and you play a memorial game for Damar, Hamlin, Bengals, Bills. And whoever wins that game gets the playoff seeding to start. And then you play the playoffs, and then you get to the championship games, and whoever wins goes to the Super Bowl, right? They get a week off instead of 2. And I think that's fine. Honestly, I think that's fine. You play the Pro Bowl, and then you have the Super Bowl. That's just my thoughts. Those are just my thoughts and opinions. If you enjoy the content, leave a like and a comment and give me ideas on what to talk about. Give me suggestions on what you think of what I say. And overall, subscribe. Come back for more. This is the 5th episode of the Katie Kevin Drake Show. We do this every Thursday, and I will continue doing this every Thursday because I'm having a lot of fun. Also, guys, I will say that we stream Monday, Friday, Thursday on Twitch. And we're starting to stream on YouTube as well as a multi-stream. Sometimes we do streams on Wednesdays, but it's very rare if I'm not working. Also, there are the rare occasions that we do streams on Saturdays and Sundays, depending on if there is a pay-per-view event for a wrestling promotion. I request the night off. I only work the morning, and then we come home, we stream, and have a good time. So if you would like to follow me over on Twitch as well, it is going to be in the description at Deviation32 on Twitch. But until next week, everybody, I really hope you enjoy what I had said. Tell me if you agree or disagree. Give me your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and come back for more. But until next time, everybody, this is your host, Kevin Drake, Deviation, and I hope to see y'all next time. Peace out, everybody.